Good morning, and thank you for joining Resilient You with Alicia Pisani. We have guests that join our show. We talk about topics of resiliency, and today I am super excited to interview with Bernadette Logue. She is a transformation life coach, leader of a wonderful program called the Daily Positive. She's joining us from southern Spain. So, Bernadette, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here. It's lovely to be connecting with you and have this chance to have a chat with yourself and your listeners.
Yes. There's so many wonderful offerings that you have. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about the Daily Positive and how you got there? We would love to hear that story.
Sure. So I'm a transformation life coach. I've been doing it for a little over 10 years. My background before I started doing this is I worked for 13 years in corporate business, and a good half of that time was in recruitment consulting, actually, in coaching and performance coaching consultants. I had a spiritual awakening. I left everything behind, quit my career, sold my house, packed a bag, and went on an adventure to figure out what I was about and what life was about. And in the process of that, became very passionate about potentiality, healing, who we're really born as, who we're here to be, what we're here to do. And from a personal obsession with that, I decided to do this for a living. So what I did was I started coaching based on what I was discovering, very much from experientially learning. So my transformation life coaching is primarily psychological, spiritual, emotional intersection, being key components of how we express ourselves in the world. So I help people with mastering their minds, with discovering their soul purpose and connecting to it and living it, and general conscious living practices. So the Daily Positive is a community, and when I say a community, it's everybody across the planet that is in this journey with me. We've got free subscribers, we've got members, we've got people doing courses and programs, and it's really about providing a space, holding a space for people to go on the same kind of journey, to live the life they want to live, right? To liberate themselves. So I love it. I'm personally passionate and obsessed with it. And, talking about resilience and the whole topic of your radio show, man, has it taken some resilience to go on that journey, because...
Yeah. So when you say that you had a spiritual awakening, can you describe what that might feel like, or what that was like for you?
Yeah. So, at the time, I had on paper what looked like a really great life. And so I had a great career, I was rewarded well in my career, I have married a wonderful person, a lovely family, I'm born in New Zealand, if you're wondering where this strong accent comes from. And I had a great life. But I was very stressed, highly anxious, always worried, and I had a huge gaping void inside that I was not fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And I tried to fill that void with my career and getting the right house and all these different things and trying to build the material world around me. And the painful realization in my early 30s was, this is not working, and I don't know what else to do other than have a baby, and is having a baby going to fill this void? And I had a great fear that that wasn't going to be the answer. And at the time that this was happening, as spirit and life and the universe and whatever you want to call it would have it, I started getting a lot of signs and a lot of synchronicities that all started saying the same thing. And so I started to pay attention to that, and I'm the least woo-woo person that you would have met back then. But I went down a spiritual rabbit hole, like exploring energy healing and all sorts of different things. I went to a spirit channeler, and kind of like it was like taking the lid off Pandora's box. And I started to realize that the reason I was not happy was because I was not doing the right thing in my life. So I materially and practically was not actually engaging in the right things. I was the source of my own health problems and my own stress, and the only thing that would ever change my issues was me.
Mm.
There was nowhere
That
I could go or anything I could get to change the issue.
Wow, that is just so beautiful. And just to hear you tell this story, life is a journey, right? We've heard that before. And, you might be doing things because you were taught to or told or expected to. And so many of us end up in a place in our life and we're either unhappy or, as you say, we have health challenges, you have things that are happening. So to hear you tell this story is so inspiring, and I just love when this happens on my show, because I really didn't understand the depths of that, even from the questions that I had asked you. So wonderful. So you were in your 30s. You were, stressed out, worried. You were trying to fill a void. Nothing was working through the traditional means and methods. So you opened the lid on Pandora's box and you started exploring. So how did you get to there from here, right? How did you find out or get to that thing of what started to make you feel different?
Yeah, okay. So I'll just go a few different places with this and trust that we'll all come together. I will proviso this by saying I was highly leveraged and motivated for two reasons. One, I had a family member who was sick and no one had answers to fix it. So all the doctors were like, it can't be fixed. And I was just not having it. I was like, that can't be right, that can't be true, so you don't have answers, so I'm going to go down the rabbit hole because I'm going to go find answers. So I was very driven from that point of view. The other reason that I was really driven was because one of my other siblings had died when I was a teenager, and she died very young, and so I had the sense at early 30s, whatever it was, 31 or 32, I had already outlived her. She died at 25, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I've had more life than her, and I still don't know, I'm still not happy, and I can't just like let this be. There has to be, I think when you lose someone, you become a more, what's the word? Thirsty
Aware.
to make sure that your life is meaningful to you. So I went on this journey, and it was extremely exciting. It was like being on a magic carpet ride / playing Cluedo / being on a treasure hunt is what it was like. But I'm going to also be really honest and say it was like getting rebirthed through a canal. It was like being a caterpillar dissolved inside a cocoon, going, if this isn't who I am, I don't know who I am. So I have to be willing to walk away from everything that has identified me in the face of everybody looking at me going, what the heck are you doing? Because this is who you are. And I'm like, I don't think that's who I am.
Yeah, right. Scary.
Yeah, really scary. And so I kind of did some of this transformation over a couple of years subversively without kind of showing it to people. And what started to make me passionate and fill the void was that I realized that we are very much on unique spiritual paths, very much on unique soul journeys. And I started to realize that life is literally speaking to us with unique communication to try to help us to get on that path. So I wrote a whole book about one of the first things I did was I wrote a book. And the first book was about signs from life. So probably everyone's heard about this, signs from the universe. The universe is sending you signs. And I was obsessed with it. And for 3 years or so, or maybe it was about 18 months to start with, I catalogued everything that happened. And after 18 months, I decided I'd turn it into a book. And I thought, how did I not know this? And by following these signs, I found my way to fulfillment. I found my way to, a meaningful career. I started out doing energy healing. I moved into life coaching, building off the career I'd had in consulting and coaching. And I was just so happy. And I was so excited. And I did radical things. Like I just sold my house and everything I owned and just moved overseas with a suitcase and my husband and my dog and started traveling around the world and discovering more. And the only reason I had the trust and faith to do that and the resilience to do that was because going backwards was no longer an option. I wasn't willing to have stress, fear and anxiety and emptiness. And 2, because I felt like life was constantly telling me through signs and synchronicities that I was on the right path.
Amazing, amazing. Now, I've only known a few people who have shared a similar story of their journey, right? And those 3 people had said the same exact thing, that they had to be open and willing to what lied on the other side, that it's, something that you have to look back and say, I don't want this pain, I don't want this emptiness, I don't want this, turbulence, drama, whatever they were going through, and then be willing to accept, embrace, and have confidence in themselves and in the messages from the universe, right? So, if you've ever driven in a car and you heard a song that brought you to a time or a memory or a feeling, those are kind of like things that happen to me now in my life, and it's interesting because when I started, I used to do resumes for friends. I used to do it for fun, and when I woke up January 1st, and in 2014, I think it was, and I said, I'm going to start a business. So I went on my phone and I just created my business. And out of that, I was able to help thousands of people. Whereas, and I never knew where it came from. I always feel it was a spiritual thing, right? That it was there. It was so strong and powerful. It was different than my regular career, and it was something that I was able to start. It came easily to me. So that's a key, right? So if people are, faced with things in their life and they're not happy, they're not fulfilled, if they are able to be open and they listen to those signs. So Bernadette, you said your first book was Signs from Life. What happened then? Did you have other books as well?
Yes, so the first book was this. Ta-da! It was like, signs from the universe, it's so exciting, follow them. And it was called Pinch Me. It was like, pinch me, I must be dreaming. That analogy. So the book was called Pinch Me, which was fabulous. Love it, love the book. Shared it, followed the signs. Now the next book was the next 18 months of my life, and it's called Going Out on a Limb. And it's about what it is really like if you decide that you're going to walk away from everything that's familiar and you're going to try and do something audacious. And it's motivational, but it's the reality of it, which is that it's scary, which is that you have moments where you are under the bed covers and you don't want to get out from under there because you're wondering what the heck you're doing. And you start wondering if you can do this, and you start wondering when is life going to make it easier for you. So it's like the reality of what it is like to step out on a limb and do something different in your life. And then the third book was, at the tail end of all of that, is much more a self-help book, which is called Unleash Your Life. And that's about taking the journey with your mindset and seeing reality differently and planning the life that you really want to live and kind of implementing that. So it was a wild ride. I mean, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a business plan. The business grew out of what was unfolding in my life and what I found useful and what I was learning, and the passion to help other people that might have been in a similar situation to me, right? So which is why a lot of us start these kinds of businesses, is a passion to help people that we can relate to. that are on a similar journey.
Right. And that's, and we need that in this world today. I mean, so many things are going on. There's so many mental health issues. Things are bubbling up to the surface, and tools like yours with the Daily Positive and your books. I mean, if we can just get them to the people in time, earlier. That's what I, am. There's so many things happen, and you look back at it and you say, okay, well, this could have been avoided had they known about this tool or this technique or solution. So I'm hoping that this interview will help, reach those that need it, to learn about the Daily Positive. Bernadette has shared that there are free services, there's courses, and there's also membership and programs that you can take advantage of. This will help you to transform yourself, to master your mind. You will have more awareness of conscious living practices, and these things I can tell you, even if you're like, oh, this is a bunch of hooey, even if you don't believe it, unless you can open yourself and give it a try. Like, I'm going to refer to some of the people that I know because I see them time and time again. They're unfulfilled, or they're why isn't this happening in my life? I want A to happen. I want this thing. Well, you're not meant to do that, right? So look at my situation. I wrote a memoir because I had a dysfunctional upbringing, and people would ask me, how did you turn out so well? Well, when I wrote this memoir, I put it out to beta readers. I got wonderful feedback that, it resonated with them, different things I went through, they also went through. But I didn't want to put that book out. Instead, I came up with my other book, Emotional Strength Explained. This is actually my journey and how I did so well despite my upbringing. Mm-hmm. And then my daughter and I teamed up to create another tool, a workbook for kids ages 5 to 7. And this is backed by clinical professionals, but it has the mind of a child. So it helps them to understand what they might be going through at a young age. I have another one in the works now for ages 8 to 12, and my journey, it's just blowing up. Like this radio show, for example, Stephen Kuoko is the producer, and when he first approached me about having this show, I said, well, I want to help people, but it's not, I never thought of doing that. Like, I had some journalism in high school, and but the whole journalistic cycle for me was too hectic. I don't know how to frame it up. So instead, I went a technical route for my regular career. However, it's just interesting now to see, by listening to those signs, by being open and accepting in my own life, to see all of the greatness and all the people that now I'm able to reach out to and help, right? And connect people like yourself. You have been through a lot of things, right? Like, one of the things that I know you mentioned is leaving everything and moving to a foreign country. Was that part of your soul journey as well, that you think people can learn from?
Well, I guess everything you feel compelled to do intuitively is going to be somewhat aligned, because there's nothing about the mind that would have said that was sensible. So I've done it multiple times. I did it when my whole journey really started. We moved from New Zealand to Bali in Indonesia. So that was the first time I'd ever done that. But then I think the one we talked about off air was we lived in then another 5 years around Europe, and most recently we were living back in New Zealand. And in the middle of the pandemic, my husband and I both just got a really strong feeling to move back here. So in the middle of the pandemic, we decided to move countries. I remember a friend saying to me, "Are flights even running?"
Sure.
And the way we did it in reflection when I was explaining it to you was, of course, people would say that's probably a pretty stressful way to do it. We sold our home and closed a whole lot of structures in New Zealand while trying to buy a house which we bought sight unseen online in Spain in a language we don't speak, in a country we don't know the processes, while trying to do all of this amid the pandemic, while trying to take our dog from New Zealand here, who then had an emergency operation, and it was like juggling a million things in the air at one time. And I think I said to you also at the time, I had no valid passport to actually live here because it hadn't been issued yet, but we'd already bought the house, it was too late.
Right.
And I just remember when you asked about, thinking about this whole topic of resilience, that's extremely character building to go through times like that. Anybody who's been through an extremely difficult time will know that it has the power to be the making of you. I remember I went to a spirit channeler session, and a message came through saying, it was before this journey began 10 years ago, and it said, "This will be the making of you," and it absolutely has been the making of me. When you walk through the fire in life and you go through challenges, you don't have to like it, you don't have to want it, you can want to resist it and reject it, but there is probably 99% chance that somewhere down the path, even if it's on your deathbed, you're going to look back and you're going to say, "That was the making of me."
True.
Or I got super wise really fast, and that's how I was a good friend, parent, whatever it was, to other people, because of what I was able to grow into as a result of that.
Yeah, so when we have resilience, we're able to feel what we're feeling, experience what we're experiencing, move through it, and come out on the other side. We're not stuck on the thing that went wrong, right? We're not, stuck in that negative space. We're able to take that thing and be fluid with it, right? And allow it to be. That's why I love the topic of resiliency. And, certain people, I think, are born more resilient than others, right? So, but when you were faced with this, could you see it? Like, could you see that, wait, if I don't do this, if I don't move forward, then I'll be stressed and worried and empty again. Like, do you think that people will always come to that one pivotal moment? Or do you think it's more, people are different and therefore their journeys are different and they...
Yeah, I think the journeys are very different because I think we're here for very different things. We're here to learn very specific things. And I think the struggle for a lot of people is not, what do I do when I'm stuck in the middle of it? I think most people, when they're stuck in the middle of it, will holler for help when it gets too much. And even if they're being a hot mess, they will eventually get out of it, right? And I'm a hot mess sometimes too. I think the challenge most people have is they never take the step to get in the fire in the first place, because it's too terrifying to, as human beings, we want certainty, and we're in a life system which is inherently uncertain. But we convince ourselves that by doing nothing and not going outside our comfort zone, then at least things are familiar and certain. Well, they're really not. We think they are, but they're not. Life is uncertainty and change inherently. And so we stay stuck in a comfort zone that's really not comfortable. It's actually uncomfortable because we don't have necessarily all the things that we want. And then we've convinced ourselves that it's certain and comfortable when it's not.
Yeah, that's right.
But we do that because we're conditioned to certain belief programming, thought patterns, and emotional responses. And this is the thing that I'm absolutely hot on from both a psychological and a spiritual point of view, to help people understand, is that you are not your beliefs, you are not your thought patterns, you are not your emotional reactions, you're none of it. When you're born, you didn't come in with any of it. And for me, the journey of life is the journey home to who you were born to be, when you can let go, not add to yourself, not get something you're missing, when you can let go of everything that doesn't belong to you. All the beliefs that you picked up from all the people and all the experiences that conditioned you, and we pick up most of that before we're old enough to even choose for ourselves. So, you know, if you ask someone, what do you believe about relationships, what do you believe about change, what do you believe about new possibilities, about money, about whatever, the government, politics, people will tell you what they believe. And then if you say, did you choose those beliefs for yourself? It's a confusing question. What do you mean, did I choose my beliefs for myself? And we don't, because most of them are conditioned. We pick them up from our parents, our grandparents, our education, news media, right?
Yeah, it's true. And, you know, I'm a parent. I have 2 children. And today, life and the world is all about inclusion and openness and acceptance. And that's the message that I promote to my children. Now, it's interesting because my younger child is 9, and she is more open and inclusive. She's accepting of different things in the world when people are different than she is. My older child is 15, and that's a tough time anyway. But I encourage him. You know, I encourage him to be himself. You know, I just said to them over the weekend, I said, I hope that you feel I'm giving you the right level of responsibility, and that you feel you're free to learn from that. And you know, they both kind of were like, yeah, I guess, you know, like they didn't, but I think having these conversations, you know, at a younger age, I think is just so important, because as you say, you know, we have, for example, in my family and my husband's family, the earlier generation were so steadfast in their own beliefs, and you have to do things a certain way. And, you know, and that always bugged me, right? Because I guess I'm more of a free spirit. I don't know. But, you know, it's something that when you see people who had been faced with trauma, right? Because I did some counseling, I did life coaching myself. You go through that trauma, and then you build responses. And they're based on what you were taught. A lot of times you're afraid of, you know, what if you look at things differently? What if you don't do what you were taught, you know? And people don't want to jeopardize the relationships that they have with their friends, their family, or, right? So the whole concept is just, it's amazing to think about it and think about changing and transforming. I love the example you gave with the caterpillar, and you know, you didn't know if you weren't everything that you had been through and arrived at, then what were you? Well, that's the beauty. That's the beautiful question that I would love for people to take away from this show. You know, if you look at a lot of the greats, they start out one way and they end up doing something else, right? So it's definitely something that's real and powerful. Now, Bernadette, do you want to focus on your service offerings on the Daily Positive? I know that people can reach out to you on Facebook, on Instagram. You know,
YouTube is where a lot of my like free coaching how-to videos and all those kind of resources are. There's 2 main free coaching classes that I provide because they make the biggest difference for people. So on my website there's like a zillion free things, like guides, audios, classes. There's like 10 years worth of material. But there are 2 things that make the biggest difference for people. The first free class is about positive growth in your mindset. It's about understanding how your mind gets wired, and that you can rewire your mind. And when you rewire your mind, your life grows in complement to the way that your mindset grows. No mindset growth, no life growth. Right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
That Mind Masterclass is the foundations for that. And that is the content that my mind coaching program, Master Your Mind, is based on. So in the free class, we go through fundamentals for it, and then I have a 6-week program that I've been running for many years, and I take people through how to rewire their mindset. The other free class is the spiritual side for people that are interested in soul purpose and soul journey and making sense of your life from a spiritual perspective. So I have a free masterclass to know your soul, to connect practically with what soul purpose is for you. And that's the foundations that I then have expanded on in my spiritual coaching program, which is called Soul Odyssey. That's an 11-week program with me. So people can come in for free coaching classes and or join me for the coaching programs where I do personalised Q&A support for them. But there's certainly avenues for people to come in if they're interested in learning in either mind or spirituality. And the interesting thing is that while the mindset program is psychological, it really is honouring the fact that each person is a soul. And the whole point of rewiring your mind is not to try to make yourself better or become more. It's to bring your mindset back in alignment to the seat of your power, which is you're not a mind and you're not a body and you're not a little personality and you're not separate from everything. You're a very powerful spiritual being. And when you get your mindset in alignment with that, that's where you get massive amount of creativity, intuition, magnetic vibration, amazing connections, relationships, all sorts of cool things happen. And in the spirituality program, while it's spiritual, we also address the fact that you're walking on the planet as a human being, and everything that you experience from A to Z in your life is done through the filter of your mind. So you can be as spiritual as you want, but if you've got belief programming that says you're not good enough and this is not possible and that's not possible, you spend your life stuck. And it's really about, if you master the two key aspects of yourself, beautiful things happen. Liberation happens.
So one of the people that I interviewed earlier, and I think her name is Bernadette also. I think it was Bernadette Horn who asked a question that I found was very interesting, and it relates to this. She said, are you a human living a spiritual life, or are you a spiritual person living a human life? Something like that, right?
Yeah, great.
And that is kind of directly on point with what you're saying. So the universe is bringing me this message. So I have to delve in deeper to your service offerings, Bernadette. And I encourage our listeners, because if you think about what she just said, if you want cool things to happen, if you want to have, a spiritual awakening like she did, you want to align and connect with your soul purpose. She has 2 amazing free classes. The Mind Master class and the Soul Purpose to Know Your Soul. They're both available on YouTube.
No, those ones are on the website, so they can come visit me on the website, yeah.
Okay.
Shall I give you links directly to those, Alicia, and then they can easily find them?
Yes, that would be great. What is your website? Is it
www.thedailypositive.com.
Okay, so www.thedailypositive.com. So that is the place to find those 2 free classes. And then if you find value in it, you can take advantage of her personalized trainings, the 6-week courses beyond that. And, again, I love this idea that, we can listen to the signs and synchronicities in that the universe is sending us. I myself know that I've taken that path and I love it, right? Like, I have people that I know and they're different than me, right? They're like, well, I do this thing and that's what I do. That's my job, I'm not going to name names, but there's somebody that has had the same job for 30 years and they've grown beyond it. They can do more. And when they speak in frustration about things, right, with that job, and it's just one aspect, one area of the life, right? So but I keep trying to plant the seed and get them to grow, but as you said, when people never take the step to see where they can go and what they can become, they're going to remain that way. They're going to be unfulfilled. They're going to be frustrated.
And people come to their own, like it is absolutely no judgment, no right, wrong. There is no path you must take. You can stay where you are for the rest of your life if that vibes with you. But I hear what you're saying is that if that vibed with you, Bob, John, Mary, whoever you are, you probably wouldn't be complaining to me or frustrated about this relentlessly. So something's not in alignment. But people come to their own willingness to do something about the frustration when they get so done with listening to themselves talk about it.
Yes,
and
yes.
they get in enough pain. I always say, you don't have to wait for the pain to become so bad. But often the reason people won't go beyond the I don't like it frustration is because it's confronting. It's extremely confronting to say, oh, I'm just going to admit it. I don't want to do this job anymore. Because there is a huge series of dominoes that fall when you say that, well, what am I going to do now? And then there's all the beliefs come in, but I'm too old and I would have to train again. I don't have the money for that and that would be too risky. And what about the economy? And all these things come up. It's inconvenient, it's confronting, it's uncomfortable. And that's what it's like to grow on your spiritual journey. It's inconvenient and it's uncomfortable. It's also liberating, inspiring, and exciting.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a risk taker, right? So if you said, come on, Alicia, let's go bungee jump or let's do cliff diving or let's do something, I would just politely decline. But if you said, Alicia, you're better suited for this thing or listen to your soul purpose, right? I'll jump to that. Like I feel better connected with with this idea. But I know many people who aren't, like you say, they're like afraid to find out. They don't want to be inconvenienced. They have too many fears. They're holding on to those beliefs from their parents. And it's not a disrespect to your parents or your, predecessors. Like you don't have to, and that's something that I can't get through to them on, right? They feel they're respecting their elders by honoring them and doing whatever it was, a career path that was laid out for them.
Got it. Got it.
How can people, work around that?
I guess the thing is that when you look at your life journey, you got gifted the ability to be here in a body with your heart beating for a good reason. And the one thing that your job is to do to honour the fact that something is giving life to you is to honour your needs. And if you are miserable, your needs are not being met. And so what happens is, I'm going to live the life that my grandmother wanted me to have, or my father wanted me to have, or my partner expects me to have. I'm miserable. Whose life am I living? Like, obviously, I'm trying to live their version of a life for me, which is a projection of their mindset, not the life that I'm here for. So if you're living a life that is trying to align to somebody else's expectation and you're miserable, the only evidence you need that you're out of sync is that you are not at ease. The second you are not at ease, it is a call for you to make a shift into alignment. It doesn't mean you have to radically change your life. It doesn't mean you have to change your career, but it means there has to be some shift. Anytime your feelings are messengers. So anytime you are in frustration, depression, sadness, grief, loss, anything at all, every excitement, inspiration, every feeling is a message. And when you are receiving messages and then you are ignoring them because you think you're going to make someone else happy, that is an out of kilter balance in the universe. If you think about that, how is it of service to humanity or the whole if I'm suffering? Like it just doesn't align psychologically, spiritually, whether you're religious or otherwise. It doesn't align. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to be miserable and that's going to serve a greater good. How does that make sense, right?
True,
The
true.
difficulty people have is they want to be accepted. Human beings, we want to be accepted and loved. So if I go against what a partner, a friend, an employer, my grandparents or my parents say, and I am true to my own needs and my own intuition or feelings, and I don't please you, I'm risking your love and acceptance. Right? Which is why people follow the path that other people have laid out for them. They prefer to get the love and acceptance and to abandon themselves, and they would rather deal with the suffering of abandoning their own needs to get love and acceptance. The question you really have to ask, and this is confronting and painful, is, am I willing to abandon myself to please other people, and will I be happy with that choice when I'm on my deathbed? And the answer is, for most people, if they're really honest, it's like, no, I won't be okay with that. But the process of saying, okay, I'm going to do something different, it's going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to explore it, I'm going to take some no obligation, simple steps to figure out what it might be that I want to change. And I'm willing to trust that if these relationships, if these people actually love me, then they are going to come on the journey with me, right? And this is part of the human journey, is relationships are the biggest vehicle for our growth. Our interactions with others.
How off-putting in many cases, like, you can't control that. We try.
Well, control is, like, I mentioned control to you before we jumped on this live, but we want control. We want certainty and we want control. And like, the biggest joke is this: when we try to control something, our life or anyone else, we deaden that which we try to control. Because control is an energy, psychologically, energetically and emotionally, goes against the grain of our human nature. Like our true spiritual nature, our flowing, intuitive, creative energy, the same energy of Mother Nature, that is the opposite of control. And the greatest thing you can do in your life, if you want a flowing life and you want to meet the highest potentiality of what your life could be, is to let go of control. And like, I had to learn that the hard way. And it doesn't work to try to control things. You keep your life small and you keep yourself in a box when you try to control everything. So, well, there's lots of fascinating, interesting factors, aren't there, that play into this whole thing. And the thing is, you don't have to do radical things. Like, you just have to be willing to say, I don't even need to really know the answer to anything. I can just say, I'm unhappy, or I'm frustrated, or I'm quite happy, but I'd like to explore something else. And then, like, have a softness, have a gentleness about you, and an openness to be willing to learn and to be willing to see what else is possible in life, right?
Yeah. So, listeners, if you're just joining, we're meeting today with Bernadette Logue, who has a program called The Daily Positive. She's got service offerings that are available. She has some free services as well. She's urging that we ensure that we gain balance with ourselves, with our life, with the universe, and ask yourself, how can you serve that greater purpose if you're suffering? If you're struggling with, feelings where you're not sure, you don't want to risk the change of relationship or, difficult, uncomfortable situations, take comfort in that you can take steps, small steps. You can be willing to trust the people that love you and hope that they will come with you. She's telling us about control, and when we have control, it's really, it goes against the flowing creative nature that we are meant to follow. And again, it's something that if you're feeling unhappy, you can project the life that you want, and you can ask yourself, whose life are you living? Because when you're truly living for yourself, according to your soul purpose, and you've mastered your mindset, you can achieve greater things and truly find happiness, right? I don't know, I say happiness, but Bernadette, you may have a different word for it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, and I think, there's a lot of different things that play into why people don't make changes that maybe deep down they really want to. And I think one of them is, who am I to think that I could do that? Who am I to think that I'm worth a better relationship? Who am I to think I'd be capable of doing a better job? Or guilt. Someone was just messaging me in one of my programs earlier today saying, oh my gosh, I've got this guilt, and it's not even about bad stuff. They're like, I can't receive anything good because I just feel so guilty about it. My upbringing was like, you shouldn't be having more than other people, you shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, God is love and only love, and you are here to experience the fullness of this experience of being human, to have joy, to have peace, to have happiness. And it doesn't mean if you're suffering there's something wrong, because the human journey, if anyone has noticed, is quite a ride, right?
Yes.
Show me one person who's never had suffering. But guilt, like any other emotion, all these emotions are to be named, honoured for what they're trying to teach us, released, and then see what's left. When you move your frustration out of the way and you release it, emotional freedom technique is amazing for that. What is left when you move frustration, or you move guilt, or you move fear out of the way? And the answer is, what's left is the true nature of you, who knows what they want to do.
Yeah, that's the resilience, right? And the true nature of who you are and what you want to do, free of those boundaries that are imposed to you by those beliefs, by those things that are holding you back. You think sometimes they're protecting you, or they're what's in place for a reason, but you don't have to be chained to them. You don't. My book, Emotional Strength Explained, also is a great technique, and it really helps you to do that, what she just said, that you feel your emotion, you name it, you honor it, you release it, you learn from it. My book has areas where you may learn to get additional support, such as Bernadette's solutions and services. It's something that if you're just at the start of your emotional, spiritual soul journey, you can use the book to help you to focus. And, again, it's something that when we're put out into the world, right, it's funny, I'm talking with my son now because he's thinking ahead and he's trying to plan for his future and driving and college and what's after that, and he's basing his college preparations on his life, like for the rest of his life. And in a way, it's good to be mindful of where you might want to go, but I'm freaking out. It's my job as a parent to help him not. Oh, you can imagine, right? Like, he's too young to kind of try to do all of that. And you certainly can't base everything on one decision about what college to go to or what, it's just, this whole thing is amazing to me, the parenting thing. If you can't tell, I'm struggling.
I was thinking your children are so lucky to have you. Who is this person having all these conscious conversations with your children? Amazing. Like, bless you and respect to you for these conversations you're having with them. The crazy thing is, at 18 years old or 17 years old, we're meant to make decisions about what we want to be when we grow up, right? I think it's hilarious. Why? Because you cannot avoid changing through the seasons of your life. You are going to change. You can't stop it happening. You are ripe for it at every level. And there are unfolding inspirations and passions and creativity and intuition that will come to you and through you at different times in your life. So if you happen to pick something when you're that age and you're still doing that at 60, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. I've got a friend, he is a master artist. They call him the Roman master. He's an amazing artist, and he's been doing that since he was under 10 years old, and he's still doing it now. Mm-hmm. But he would be the only one I know.
Mm-hmm. Right. I know somebody who was 50 years at the same company, and I look at that and I just think, how boring, right? How could you do the same job for 50 years. Like, it's the one person I know. And again, creativity, if you're a musician, if you are, that's a different kind of thing, right? But even at that, they can take their gift of art and utilize it in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So
And I
many
think some of us, though, are wired for variety. Like, we literally are numerologically and astrologically wired differently. So some of us are real freedom-loving, free-thinking, avant-garde. Like, I'm not following the rule. I'm going to go the opposite way. That's just, we're wired that way. Other people are not wired that way. And sometimes I've heard people say things to me in coaching like, well, like, here's what I want to do, and it's no great big thing. I'm like, what do you mean it's no great big thing? And maybe it's that they have been at their career for 40 or 50 years and they are raising a family. And I'm like, you're raising a family? Like, the most important job on the planet. And they're like, it's no big thing. And it's like, it's like the most blessed thing. Your sole purpose and your life doesn't have to be fireworks
right.
to be right for you.
It's
And,
true.
you know, some people, their passion comes out in their gardening and in their cooking and in their raising of their children. And some people, it comes out in starting a humanitarian mission in some place on the planet and creating some scientific wonder that's going to change the planet. It's different for everybody. And I think actually people can walk right past their sole purpose and not even see it because they think from conditioning of what they hear and they're watching people they admire that it's going to be some huge thing, and they haven't found it yet when it's like right under their noses.
Yeah, that's so true. So if you're finding happiness in something, I remember meeting a woman who was a chef. Well, she cooked for her family, and she was so good at it. And then she started cooking in a restaurant, and then she was working for, I think, a geriatric facility for people who had like different conditions, and she was able to create such wonderful meals despite the no salt, no sugar, no carbs, and it was just so amazing. Well, she got a book deal, I think, because someone tried her food, and the next thing you know, she was so humble, and she's doing videos and she's doing books and she's, and it's amazing. But, and from her words, she was saying that she never thought at that age, whatever age she was, that late in life, that she would do more, right? She was just happy, content making the meals for her family. So, that's another important point, that people, you don't have to be restricted to your beliefs of your age or your demographic or, your abilities. There's so many things that, if you change your thinking, you can really make strides in feeling better. That's a wonderful goal, right? You can.
Yeah. Someone said to me the other day, they reached out and they said, I've done your free mind masterclass. I was thinking about doing your program, but I'm 62. And I went, and what's the question? I've got a 79-year-old, a 92-year-old doing the mind program.
Wonderful.
Like, go, yes. I was like, you are not done. You are alive. You're not done. And I don't mean you're not done fixing yourself. I mean you're not done exploring the reaches of your joy, of what's possible for you, of healing, of letting go, of having fun, of learning, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Elton John just said that last night in his farewell concert. Well, I don't know if it'll be his last, but he's 76, and he said, I'm not done. And that was so amazing to me to hear that, right? As high of a level as he reached, to reach so many people through his music over the decades, it's like he's not done, right? So that's just amazing. Can't wait to.
Can I just share one thing with you that just came through when you were talking about something before? And I feel like it's important for whoever is listening to this right now, that this is for. Maybe it's not for everybody, but in your life, you can do things for lots of different reasons, right? So you can achieve things, start things, live your purpose, whatever it is, for different reasons. And so many people are trying to do things that I've come across through my work, that are trying to do things to seemingly on the surface like be happier, but what's really going on is they're trying to please people and they're trying to get validation and they're trying to get results. So I'm going to do this because it's going to give me that. And ultimately, if we can have a motivation to just do things because they feel good and they're enjoyable, and we don't care what other people think, and we're not trying to get an outcome, and we're not trying to get some kind of validated success measure, that's really where, if you've ever met someone who doesn't care what other people think and is just doing the things that make them happy, like that's a successful human being right there. And if that is, they grow flowers in their garden and that's their joy and that's what they do and they're happy, that is a greater success than someone who is out there trying to get validation from other people and trying to get outcomes and they're not happy because it hasn't happened yet and da da da. It's just like, if we were to just do things in our life that give us some level of curiosity and inspiration, and we do it not for the outcome but we do it for the doing of it, then I think a lot of other things start to solve themselves. Does that make sense?
It's true. It's true. I know a few people who have, tried to do different things for validation or for success in the eyes of others. And when, 10 years later, they end up doing something else and then they love it. And so, in doing what they love, they give up that unattainable goal, right? Because you can't please all the people all of the time. You can't please, and even so again, if you're doing something, now we're complex creatures, right? We have many things that motivate us. And when, like me, for my show, for example, I like having the messages reach people. Right, I love bringing people like yourself to kind of bring different things in and help people to open their minds and become greater. This is my mission, and I've been interviewed in some articles, and I've had some different things going on, and like my daughter, she's going to be interviewed for December for this new book. But it's true. It's like, okay, how do you balance that, right? Or if you're doing a job and you're happy doing the work, but you want your boss to give you the attaboys, the pat on the back. I've heard people complain because they don't get a thank you. They don't even get, sometimes that's all they want to hear, right? Is a thank you. So how do we balance that, that bit of what makes us feel good when it's not necessarily just ours, right? So, like something that's in the world versus something that's something for us,
Got it. Well, see, that's a good example of, you're in a job and you've got an ungrateful boss. That's not unreasonable to want to have some warmth and like connection with the person you're spending 40 hours of a week with. That's not always seeking validation. That's like, dude, I've got to live with you 40 hours a week. Like, can we at least make this a little bit pleasant?
Right.
But if you're like, you're doing this job and you're striving, and unless you get everything, like you're the best and you get the trophy for it, then you're just like grumpy. That's a whole different kettle of fish, right? It's like when you're in business, so like you with your book, are you happy if 2 people's lives are changed, or are you not going to be happy until it's 20,000 people's lives have changed? I remember when I first started out in this business, I was talking to myself. I was on YouTube talking to myself. I was like, and you know what? I was having a field day. I was loving it. It was hilarious. I didn't really, if I got any views, I thought it was fabulous. But it grew over time, and the only reason I had the resilience to stick with it was because it's what I wanted to do. So at least if I can make a living at this, because obviously if I'm going to do it full time, I need to put food on the table, right? I need to make a living at this, and the more living I can make, the more people I can help. But if it's 10 people, if it's 10,000 people, if it's 1 million people, it's not my job to say that. My job and the job description of life is to show up and be a vessel for loving, inspiration and passion to come into the world. And then you've got to admit, you don't control anything beyond that. You don't.
Right,
I don't know how we ended up connected sitting here in 2022 on technology having this conversation. You didn't control this, I didn't control this. Yes, we show up and we participate. But the best thing you can do in life is to find something that gives you any level of curiosity, any level of intuitive direction and passion. Go in that direction with an open heart and don't try to control everything about life. Because I think a lot of suffering comes about when we get stuck in doing the things we think we should do, trying to control and nail everything down, right?
That's true. That's true. So if you're suffering out there, hear her words, hear her message. It's proven, right? She's telling you to follow your intuitive path with an open heart without controlling things. I mean, you know, you might look at your day and just make a list. Make a list of the times when you have that uncomfortable feeling. Maybe make a list of the things that you are trying to control. You may not even realize it, that you're doing it. And if you have that time in your life because you're not busy trying to control things that you have no business controlling, imagine what you could do with that. Imagine if you could inspire someone else, or if, you know, your interaction can cause a chain reaction of goodness. I mean, this is a message that I give to my listeners and my clients, that when you're grateful, when you're thankful, you can do so much more, you know, because you're not wrapped up in those same messages and same patterns that you follow, right? So I loved what you said, Bernadette, about, you know, we try to stay in our comfort zone, but it's really not comfortable, you know. So that's a message I would love our listeners to also take a look at. Right, look at that comfort zone and figure out whether you think that is really aligned with your soul purpose. Do you have that freedom? Do you have that feeling of, you know, I don't know, it's a light feeling, isn't it? It's a, I don't know how to explain that feeling, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But for me, it feels very, very light, and things are easy. You know, so, you know, if I am trying to, you know, impress a boss or impress a colleague, you know, I'm not getting the outcome. Well, why didn't they speak highly of me at that time, in that moment, or in this conversation? Or why didn't this or that happen? And then I have, you know, other situations which are very different. It's like, you know, I'm getting yeses to interviews. I'm getting, you know, different things happening like beyond my reach, right? Like I didn't plan for it. So these things are probably aligned with my soul purpose. Again, Bernadette, I'm going to go to your website. Again, I didn't have a chance yet, but I'm going to definitely take part in these, you know, the free courses you have. You know, Bernadette, is there anything else you want our listeners to have as a takeaway? I know that there's so much, and you know, because of this path that you went on, you're able to offer this up. You have 3 books that you put out. Listeners can go out and Google this. Bernadette Logue is a transformation life coach, leader of the Daily Positive. She has free courses. She has memberships. There's different classes and services available to help you master your mind, to help you on your soul journey, to align and really live a better life. I can't stress that enough.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so kind, generous and kind. The one thing I would probably just leave people with is this, and I think I wish in my darkest times, dark night of the soul, under a duvet cover, that someone had said this to me. And that is, when you're suffering, or you want to do something but there's fear, or something's not going right in your life, you are not broken, and you're not doing something wrong. Because if you could see that every single person is having their own version of what it's like for you right now, you would realize that this is part of the human experience, but you don't have to stay there. And I think so many people feel broken, wrong, can't fix something, I shouldn't feel this way, and we just burden ourselves with another problem. So a friend of mine, Dr. Kim Duramo, who I love, has got a great question that she always poses. When you're in suffering, when you're in a stuck situation, when you've got a big emotion going on, when life isn't going the way you want, you could ask yourself Dr. Kim's question, and that is this: what is right about this? What is right about this? The least likely question you'd think you would ask. And what it does is it flips your mind around to try to look at it from a different perspective. And what you'll often find is that what is right about this is suffering is a call home to who you really are. Difficult emotions are a call to make a shift. Everything that doesn't feel right for you, when it's there, could it be a messenger for you? Could it be something that's trying to help you towards coming home to yourself, coming home to alignment? And the last thing I would say to that is, it doesn't have to be this traumatic deep dive in counselling for 20 years and you have to do a zillion courses and you have to hire a zillion coaches before you're going to get any relief. I have people go on my YouTube and listen to like this one affirmation that's been played like 1.6 million times and email me after 30 days and go, I'm done, like it's amazing, I feel so much better, I've quit smoking, I've lost weight, I feel hopeful again, like amazing. And then I've got other people and they come and do every coaching program under the sun with me and they love it. You don't have to do like a long-winded thing, right? Sometimes it's one little shift in perspective. Sometimes it's like one little emotional release that you need, and then it starts to feel better. But it can feel like when you're, I'm not saying that everybody listening is in this situation, but sometimes it can feel so heavy that you're like, I don't think I'm ever going to get out of this. And I'm telling you, if your heart is beating, you're 100% destined to get out of it.
So if you're in dark times or suffering, know that you're not broken, you're not doing something wrong. Don't burden yourself with another problem. Know that it's just part of the human experience. And then ask yourself, what is right about this? The different emotions you're feeling is a message to make a shift. And making that shift is going to help you come home to alignment. I just love this, Bernadette. This really sums up, and it gives people hope, because sometimes that one emotional shift that they need is maybe all they need for now, right? So I love that. I mean, I've had people tell me that my book is something that will shave off like 6 to 8 years of counseling, right? Like if they're open to try this, it's one prompt a day. It could get them to focus on that area that if they can change it, it'll open up their lives to something greater. It's the same concept,
Yeah,
so
it absolutely is. And I think sometimes it's like you have to think about your mindset and your conditioned subconscious programming and all the emotions that are attached to, I say glued to those. Like a game of Jenga. Do you have Jenga?
Yes,
or like
we do.
A building block. So it's like the tower. And often if you can identify what's at the bottom of all of that and you tweak the thing at the bottom and you pull it out, everything comes crumbling down. So if you think you've got 100 negative thought patterns and like 50 difficult emotions, sometimes there's a root to that. And if you don't deal with symptoms and you deal with the root, you get massive change that can be quite rapid.
Guys, you've got to connect with Bernadette. Do you hear this? This makes it sound so simple. It sounds so logical to me, though. I don't know. If 1.6 million views on her YouTube, you want to think about this. If your emotions are tied to your feelings, you can deal with the root and you can kind of get to stop dealing with the symptoms and imagine how much time we spend, right? Maybe every day we deal with people who are not aligned with us, and we're fighting it, and we're saying, why don't they like me, or why don't they see it the way I do, and they don't value me, or when we have interactions like that, you hear, well, maybe it's not them, or maybe it's not you, it's them, maybe it's they're not your people, right? So but the interesting thing is, imagine if you went through that experience and you're able to deal with why you're so concerned about that.
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo. Wherever you go, there you are. You can change your job. You can change your relationship. You can move countries. Believe me, I've done all of these things. You can change everything you could think you could possibly change, and guess what? Wherever you go, there you are. You can change from a stressful job to think you're going to start some relaxed business. Oh no, wherever you go, there you are, honey, and you just took it all with you, and then you're going to run the same patterns, and then one day you're going to wake up and go, I can't do this anymore. Oh, I have to change again. Wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
The reality is that you have abundance blocks in your mindset. You could have abundance all around you and you ain't going to see it because your mindset is stuck on lack. You could have people that are totally trustworthy around you and you're like, people can't be trusted. This happened to me, that happened to me, and you won't even see trustworthy people because you are ripe and ready to look for everything that is not trustworthy. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not trying to harm yourself. People go, I'm self-sabotaging. It is not self-sabotage. It's self-protection because your subconscious has one job and it's to keep you safe. And if it sees or smells anything that looked like a problem in the past, it is going to kick in and it is going to keep you the heck away from it.
Amazing. This is so powerful.
And it seems complicated, but after going through like I've been on the personal growth journey for like 24, 25 years personally, so I'm obsessed with it. I've been doing this work for over a decade. And I got frustrated with like, well, but that seems true, and this seems true, and that seems to be important to make it work. But what about this? But I mean, there's got to be a simpler way. Like, what is the most important crux of this? When we talk about understanding the root things, not dealing with symptoms. Like people say, oh, I've got a confidence problem. You don't have a confidence problem. Confidence problems are a symptom of an issue with your relationship with yourself and the way you see yourself. And so if you're constantly trying to affirm, I'm confident, but underneath you think you're worthless and nothing because somebody told you that when you were 3 years old or 5 years old or 7 years old on the playground. You can affirm I'm confident all you like. It is not going to make any difference because you are not speaking to the root issue.
Right.
So if you go to the root issue, you don't have to deal, like everything else is nice. I love all of it. Like I'm obsessed with learning and I continuously want to learn. But if you don't deal with the root underlying programming, then everything else is like trying to get yourself and wrap a bow around you to make it pretty. With ignoring what's really repetitively going on inside.
Yeah, this is so valuable. I know that our listeners are, gonna get a lot from this. So Bernadette, we have we've covered a lot of material, a lot of great stuff around your program, your service. We have talked about the root of issues and how people can align themselves with their greater purpose, and this is just amazing. So Bernadette, we know that we can reach out to you. Do you have anything else coming down the pike that our listeners should know about?
Yes, so all my programs and membership are all available like now. So any time of the year you can come and you can participate in the free resources, you can enroll in the programs. And sometimes people say to me, but if I enroll in a course, like I'm just doing it right and like what will happen? I'm like, no, I'm here. Like I'm a real person. I'm here. You're in my program. You're in a course with me. I respond to you. I'm supporting you if you have questions. So while it's not always live as an event, it's live in the sense that I'm here every day helping people. But in January we do run our live, that we run Master Your Mind. Once a year we run it live and it's going to be in January.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so the timing is great on this.
Timing is great.
And the live program is something available worldwide?
Yes, it's online. Yep. So we take people from all over the world into the program. We usually have a great group of people. We have sometimes graduates come and revisit with the material, but it's 6 weeks. It's a great experience. We do weekly live classes, and sometimes people are in time zones where they can't participate live, so they just do it in their own time. That's fine too.
Mm.
So we do that once a year. That's going to be in January. So people are welcome to come over to the website and get a free resource, sign up, and then they'll get emails whenever we have a live program coming up.
Wonderful. So, all right, everyone, thanks so much for listening today on Resilient You. We are thrilled to have Bernadette with us today, transformation life coach. She's a real person, and she's going to right. But again, the value that she brings, her 25 plus years of experience through this is there to help people. And again, you're not broken. Don't burden yourself with another problem. Feel your feelings, acknowledge them, and then realize that from what's left, you can deal with the root, not just the symptoms. You can get to a better place. I highly encourage you to take advantage of her programs. In January, she has a live event coming up, a 6-week program. So go and get your free courses now. See if it suits you, and if so, we can definitely wait to see what changes you make, and then you can reach out to me and you can join me as a guest on my show.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bernadette. We're going to definitely take a look at your programs and look forward to seeing what comes next. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.